You're tuned in to Soul to Soul. Thank you for viewing. We're your hosts, James and Kathy LaValle. And on today's show, we're going to be continuing our discussion on awakening to a higher consciousness.
During the next 4 episodes of Soul to Soul, we're going to be discussing the 4 phases of a cosmic consciousness journey. We will outline some of the traits and experiences that can occur during the phases of an awakening to a higher consciousness. But please keep in mind during these episodes that we're going to present just guidelines as to what some people might experience as they progress on this path. And the sequence of events might not be typical of some individuals.
The 4 phases to a cosmic consciousness journey are: the first phase is the spiritual high. Second phase is conscious awareness. Third phase, maintaining a steady state of consciousness. And the 4th phase is the most important, serving the universe.
But on today's show, we're just going to focus on phase 1 of the cosmic consciousness journey, which is the spiritual high that occurs during the initial conscious awakening period. And we're going to start our discussion first by kind of talking about how do you get to that point of a spiritual high? Like what event in your life might find you feeling like you're in a spiritual high?
Or what event might you find yourself at that will give you that spiritual high?
Yeah, there's a good possibility that most people get to a spiritual high by attending some type of event that might bring some awareness or...
Well, it's all about the energy of the event that brings you into that state of consciousness, that spiritual high. You know, you might find it also in a book that you read, or speaking to someone that's a master or a guru in the area that sparks your interest, that brings you to that, again, that state of spiritual high.
Yeah, I know. For us, I think our initial spiritual high started when we had got our Reiki master attunement. We spent 4 days with a very enlightened Reiki master, and the energy was just so wonderful, and you know, being there with the group, we just felt a sense of oneness, and you know, people would say that we were literally glowing for days after that, and it was to us kind of like a spiritual high. And so that's kind of how it starts. You might attend a spiritual event or just come to some type of awakening to where you feel like you're just suddenly different. So when that happens, some of the things that we're going to talk about are some things that people say they experience when they get like this in this period. So one of the things that can happen when you're on the spiritual high is you start to kind of take a look at some of the things in your life. And you realize there might be a little bit more to my life than currently what's going on right now. So you start to question some things in your life. You might take a look at the people that are in your life, and you might ask yourself some questions about, why am I in this relationship, or is this relationship healthy for me? So it can be a period where, you know, at the same time you're feeling very euphoric, but it also can bring some confusion into your life.
Yeah, like who's your friends? I mean, you're going to lose friends, you're going to make friends, because maybe this spiritual awareness, this awakening, has changed you in such a state that the old friends, the majority of them, may not be able to associate with your level of awareness, and nor you with theirs.
Yeah, that's true. You might go through some changes like that, and you also might look at kind of some of the materialistic things in your life. You know, maybe there's some things that you thought brought you happiness, a possession, or just, you know, maybe some of your ambitions and goals in life. And during this phase, you might take a look at some of those and wonder if there's still an opportunity for happiness there. You might redefine what some of those mean to you. So that's one change that sometimes occurs.
Well, that's happened with us.
That happened, yeah, a lot with us. It was it was over a period of time, and this wasn't something that we just...
It's called extreme downsizing.
Yeah, but it took a period. It wasn't something we just decided overnight, oh, you know, I'm feeling good, let's get rid of stuff. No, it was something that took a period of time.
About 5-6 years.
Yeah, you know, you just start to reevaluate some of the things, some of the material things in your life. So, you know, and also during this time period, you might also start to really explore the possibility that the physical world may not be the only reality that is out there. You know, when you're really grounded in a materialistic society and feeding that, you think that all that there is out there is what you can physically see.
In the 3D world.
Yeah.
In the 5 senses.
What you can see, what you can prove, and it just might open your mind to where you start to explore just the possibility that there might be more out there. There might be something out there.
Beyond the 3D?
Yeah,
beyond the 5 senses?
In the universe, you might start to question, you know, what's the creator source? You know, I don't know, everybody has different belief systems up to that point, and you might question some of those old belief systems and find a way to redefine some of those and ask yourself what some of those meant. And, you know, it can be a period of change.
Yes, it's definitely a period of change. It's all in how you handle that period of change, is how you will progress with your awareness and awakening.
And one of the things that happens a lot, people say that they feel like the veil of duality between the soul, between the self and the spirit has been lowered. They call it the lowering or releasing of the veil. And what they're referring to there is there's kind of, they call it like an invisible veil that keeps your duality in place, and that kind of keeps you separate from a conscious connection to a spirit or your higher self or a creator source. And that's kind of where we are in our 3D world right now. We feel like we're separate from a source. You know, it's the source out there, and we're here, just this little person, and, you know, what relevance do we have to this source? So when you go through the spiritual high, you feel like the veil has been lifted, and you start to see yourself as a part of this creator source instead of being separate from this creator source. You know, the veil keeps human beings limited to their third dimensional world and just recognizing things with their 5 senses. So when the veil is lifted,
with the awakening that they go through for the spiritual high,
yeah, you suddenly start to take the focus off of the external world, and you might put the focus on your internal world and learn to discover parts about your internal world that you never really gave much thought to before.
And that can be a scary thought.
It can be very scary to go inside and see what you're all about, and you know, it really can be. So that they say that's why we were given this veil of forgetfulness, because it served a purpose. Maybe we weren't ready vibrationally to go inside, and up to that point. So as you raise as you become more on this spiritual high, you are raising your energy vibration while this is occurring.
Right. And as far as the energy vibration raising, it's going to allow you to see more than what you physically have before you. There, as Kathy was saying, internally, when you go down that journey to the inner self and look and see what's there, there's some serious analyzing that's going to take place, and you're going to wonder, you know, how you lived with yourself before this, or you're going to wonder how you could not have realized this before going through this spiritual awakening.
Well, that's part of what the purpose of the veil serves, because it keeps us subservient to our ego.
Right.
So we're so busy trying to take care of our wants and desires of the ego that we don't really think about going inside. So when this veil is lifted, suddenly the ego might have to take a subservient position.
Well, the ego's all about me.
Right.
Me.
And when this veil is lifted, you also have you can have the realization that your soul exists, and you might learn to develop a relationship with your soul, or people use the term higher self.
Also, it's part of realizing, the I, the me, the I part of the world, and then with this higher awakening, with the spiritual awakening that you've encountered, you go from the I to the I am.
You feel like you're part of something. You take the focus off of the ego and the I, and you're feeling as if I am the creator source. I am part of my creation. I am part of the world.
I am part of the universe as a whole. I'm no longer this single individual, the I, but you're now part of the whole, the I am, which is part of what Kathy had just talked about, the duality that we were caught in as far as our 3D world went.
Yeah, so when this happens, you might feel a sudden oneness with the spirit or the creator source that you may not have felt before. When the veil's lifted, it allows you to develop that sense of oneness with the creator source. And a lot of times even in religious spiritual experiences, you might feel like you're one with the creator while you're in a service or something, and that could be a time of a spiritual high. But then you get back out in the world and you're burdened by all the things that happen, and you tend to lose that sense of oneness with the creator source, and you feel more like a victim. Why is this happening to me? Why is God doing this to me? So when you're in this spiritual high and you have this awakening, you kind of do lose that sense of being a victim, and you feel like the things that are happening in your life are part of a greater purpose. So a lot of people use the term, I received enlightenment, maybe while they are on this spiritual high. So
Well, what does enlightenment mean, though?
it's a very popular term, and different philosophies and different belief systems will define enlightenment in different ways. But one good description I found of the word enlightenment came from the philosopher Immanuel Kant. And back in 1784, he wrote an essay called Answering the Question, What is Enlightenment? And in that essay, he describes enlightenment as man's emergence from his self-incurred immaturity. And what he means by that is he's saying that to be enlightened, you have to break away from the fear of thinking for ourselves. And that's definitely something that people are afraid of doing.
It's a real challenge for most people to take that and just fathom that thought of breaking away from themselves and becoming a part of the whole, since majority of us are in that 3D world. To break away from that, pretty scary thought.
Well, because we have social norms that we're taught that we have to be a part of. We have to be normal. If you go outside that sense of norm, then you're considered strange or unusual.
But what normal compared to what, though? That's the whole key.
Yeah, compared to what somebody defines as normal. So, is enlightenment just the ability to start thinking for yourself? That's one definition of it. Like I said, there are many definitions of it depending on what spiritual master you might be speaking with or what belief system you might be exploring. So just something to think about there when it comes to, you can say that I received enlightenment. And